I never thought something so shocking would happen. But there. I was standing at the door, looking at him, my pulse racing and my heart pounding in disbelief at the moment. I opened the door. I had no idea what was coming. At 49, I had seen it all yet. Here I was, face to face with a young delivery boy, and something in me stirred that it called in Tegner. He stood there tall and fit with a smile that seemed mature for his age. My hands shook slightly as I took package from him, but it wasn't the livery. That caught my attention. His eyes, darkened, knowing, lingered on me longer than they should. Have. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself I was imagining things. But there was no denying the intensity in his gaze. Could feel the weight of it pulling. Maine. Despite my better judgment, "Here you go, ma'am," he said, his voice deep, far more than it should have been for someone so young. I forced a smile, nodding and thanking him. But there was a strange energy between us that I couldn't shake as he turned to leave. He paused, glancing back over his holder. "I'll be back later for another delivery," he said casually, his words carrying an undertone that made Mr. Mac flip. I tried to laugh it off, but deep down I knew something had changed. I didn't know what it was, but I felt I'd tend. It scared me. How could someone so young make me feel this way, and why did he find myself wanting to no more secrets destroy? Revenge builds. Watch till the end and subscribe to Viral Secrets. I couldn't stop thinking of Bootham eyes, haunting me in the quiet moments when I least expected it. Then next few days were a blur. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting encounter, an odd moment of curiosity. But no matter how much I tried to ignore it, his face kept appearing in my mind. Every time the doorbell rang, my heart would race for a second, only to settle when I realized it wasn't them. But then, on the fourth day, there he was, again standing on my doorstep, with that same confident smile. I froze for a moment, unsure of how to react. It wasn't just the deliverer this time. 'Twas something more, something unspoken hanging in the air between us. "Got another package for you," he said us. Voice a little lower this time, like knew the effect he had on me. His gaze flickered over me quick, but intense enough to make my breath catch. I took the package, trying to act casual, but the way his eyes lingered made my hands tremble. "Thanks," I said, barely able to meet his eyes, but before I could close the door, he stepped forward just a little too. "Close, don't mean to intrude," he began, his tone playful yet serious, "but would you like some company for a cup of coffee? I'm in, since I'm already here." I didn't know how to respond. It was improper. He was young enough to be my son, but something in me, something that had been buried for years, stirred. The last thing I needed was to encourage this. But I couldn't help myself. "Maybe another time," I said, trying to sound firm. But there was a vulnerability in my voice that I couldn't hide. He smiled again, as if he knew my hesitation was just a front. "I leave you to think about it," he said softly, stepping away, "but I'll be back soon." I shut the door behind him, my heart pounding in my chest. What was happening to me? Why was he suddenly so aware of him, of his presence on my mind? Was a storm of confusion and desire. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of something I couldn't control. It wasn't supposed to go this far, but when the doorbell rang again, I couldn't trust this. 2 days later, the doorbell rang again, and my heart skipped. I knew it was him before I even opened the door. There was something magnetic about the way he seemed to appear at exactly the right moments, and he felt an unexpected flutter in my chest. It was wrong. I was old enough to be his mother, and yet the attraction was undeniable. I opened the door to find him standing there wearing a tight shirt that showed off his sculpted muscles and a pair of jeans that clung to him in all the right places. His eyes met mine, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The silence hung thick, heavy with unspoken words. I brought a package," he said, his voice dropping a little lower than usual, making my pulse quicken. "But I was wondering, since you've been so kind before, maybe you'd like the coffee now." I knew I should say no. Eek knew that inviting him in, even for something as innocent as a cup of coffee, was dangerous. But there was something about his presence, something about the way he looked at me, that made it impossible to say no. "Sure," I found myself saying, Before I could stop myself come. And I stepped aside and he walked in thigher between us, thick with anticipation as he followed me into Thaika-chen. I could feel the heat of his booty so close to mine. Every step he took seemed to draw me in, more like I was being pulled into something I didn't fully understand. I busied myself with coffee, trying to focus on something, goals, but all I could think about was how close. His scent was intoxicating, seeming earthy, warm, and masculine. It made me feel lightheaded, dizzy even. So you're really not going to tell me your name? He teased, leaning against, counter his eyes, never leaving me. Elad nervously, the sound high and strained, wouldn't want to make things too easy. I replied, trying to mask Muni's with humor, but deep down, I knew this was more than just a casual conversation. This was something I had no control over. I'll just call you Mysterious, then her said with a smile that sent a shiver down. My spine seems to suit you, the coffee brewed in silence as I tried to steady. My breathing, the pull between oozwas becoming stronger, and I couldn't dunny it any longer. I didn't expect the tension to snap so quickly, but when his hand brushed against mine, everything changed. Secrets destroy, revenge builds, watch till the end and subscribe. To Viral Secrets, the coffee was finally ready booty. Couldn't focus on it. The moment stretched between us filled with electricity. I handed him a cup, my fingers brushing against his for a split second, but it was enough to send a jolt through my body. I quickly pulled my hand back, but the spark lingered. He noticed this, eyes darkening, ever so slight, like careful, your hands shaking. He said, his voice low and teasing, something wrong. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out flat, just not used to company. He took a sip from his cup, still watching me with that intense gaze. It was like he could see right through me, could feel every flicker of doubt, every pulse of desire I was desperately trying to suppress. I don't believe that for a second, he said, his voice husky, outrageous, not used to someone making you feel alive. Again, the words hit me like a punch. My chest tightened, and for a moment I was speechless. He was right. I've had been so long since I had felt anything, really felt anything, since I had been noticed. Truly noticed, and nowhere he was younger, more alive than E could ever hope to be pulling something out of me I couldn't control. I started, but I couldn't find words. Instead, I just stood there frozen as he set his cup down and took a step closer. He was standing so close, now just inches away, his presentio verbal, ging, his breath was warm against my skin as he leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear as he whispered, "Don't have to say anything before?" Could process what wash of pawning. His hand gently cued my cheek. I didn't move. I couldn't move. His thumb brushed back across my skin, sending shivers down my spine, and then without warning his lips found mine. It was soft at first, hesitant, but then he deepened the kiss, pulling mine as if I were the only thing that mattered in the world. My mind screamed for me to stop, to push him away. But me body betrayed me, leaning into Jim instead, and just like that, everything changed. I should have stopped it, but Thekas lingered, leaving me lost in a Maze wasn't sure I wanted to escape. His lips were still on mine. When the reality of what was happening hit me, I pulled back, gasping for breath, my heart pounding in my chest. I was shaking, confessed. Terrified, but there was also a deep, undeniable part of me that didn't want to let go. "What are we doing?" I whispered, my voice trembling as I stared into his eyes. They were dark, intense, full of something I couldn't name, something dangerous. He didn't answer right away. His step back slightly, giving space to breathe, but not enough to raise the tension between us. His gaze didn't leave me, as if he was waiting foam to make the next move. Shouldn't have done that, I said, my words barely above a whisper, but they felt like a lie the moment I said Themi. Body was still tingling from the kiss, and my heart was racing for a complete lie for reason. He reached out, his hand brushing against mine. Again. "You don't have to say it," Hemmer murmured. We both know what's happening. E wanted to argue, wanted to tell him this was wrong. That I was too old to marry to everything for this to make sense. But all of those words felt hollow in my throat every time I tried to say them. They faded into the air, lost under the weight of the desire building bedweeness, maybe. Not about what's right. Hessed softly, his hands slowly trailing up my arm. Maybe it's about what feels right. His touch was gentle, but in me back to him, I could feel the heat radiating from his body as he leaned in again this time. Not waiting for me, to respond, his lips found mine. Once more demanding this time, and my resistance began to crumble. Every part of me screamed to stop. To push him away, but another part of me, a part I didn't recognize, wanted more. The kiss depended. I felt the world around me blur when leaving only the two of us caught in something. Neither of us could control. It shouldn't be doing this. I knew that. Butas. His hands slid down my back, pulling long closer. I couldn't bring myself to stop him. The door was locked, but in that moment, I realized I might never want I tenlocked again. I didn't know when the last threat of resistance snapped. Maybe it was the way his lips felt against mine, or the way his body pressed into me as if he was trying to erase every boundary between us, maybe. It was the heat, the undeniable pull that had taken hold of him. But one thing was certain, I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. His hand slid beneath my shirt, his touch electrocuted my skin. The fabric seemed to disappear in a haze. And soon, I was standing therein, nothing but undergarments pews to him in a way I had never been exposed to anyone before. Are you sure about this? He whispered, his lips brushing against me air, sending shivers down my spine. I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream at them, to stop, to remind myself of who I was, of what was at stake, but the words didn't come. Instead, I nodded, my chest rising and falling with each shocky breathes. I whispered back the word, escaping me lips. Before I even realized I had said it, he took that as permission. With slow, deliberate movements, he guided me toward the couch. Soft cushions giving way beneath usas, he knelt in front of me, his hands wandering lengthly. I closed my eyes, trying to focus, but the only thing I could feel was him, his touch, his breath. Who're beautiful, he said, his voice bare lightable, as if he couldn't believe it himself. And then, before I could process what was happening, his lips were on Magani, this time lower, tracing the path, my neck moving toward my chest. The sensation was dizzying, overwhelming. And my body responded. Bore. My mind could catch up. It shouldn't be doing this. But as he kissed him, as his hands roamed over my body, thoughts became distant whispers. In that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just giving in to him. I was giving in to myself, to a part of him that had been buried for too long, a part that craved. This craved him despite everything I knew was wrong, and I didn't want it to stop. Not now, not ever. Secrets destroy revenge builds. Watch till thin and subscribe.